Welcome to another engaging episode of Linguistics for Dummies by Dummies. Whether you're a student or just fascinated by linguistics, you are in the right place. I'm your host, Benjamin Bustamante.
And I'm Victoria Budini, your fellow learner and co-host. Today, we delve into the captivating world of imperialist linguistics and its impact on endangered indigenous communities.
Absolutely. In particular, we will be focusing on the vernacular language of the Mapuche and its rich cultural context.
An intriguing topic indeed.
Certainly, we are fortunate to have acclaimed guests today. Researchers Alejandra Lillo and Omar Morales. Welcome to the show.
Hi, and thank you so much for that lovely introduction.
Hello everyone, it's a real pleasure to be with you guys.
Researcher Omar Morales, I've heard you will talk about many interesting topics.
Yes, today I intend to focus on three topics: linguistic imperialism, globalization, and language displacement.
What is linguistic imperialism?
That's an excellent question. The term linguistic imperialism is not widely accepted in linguistics, and there is an ongoing debate on its definition. However, Richard Quiz states that this term refers to the imposition of dominant languages and cultures upon less massive or colonized regions.
Colonized regions?
Yes, language and colonialism are two concepts that are tightly related to each other. In the colonialism era, European countries colonized small regions and used language to suppress natives, causing them to abandon their native tongue. This process caused the loss of many indigenous languages and cultures.
I didn't know language had a big role in colonization.
There are multiple examples, but the most impactful on the modern world will be English because it had an outburst thanks to its imposition on Great Britain colonies. Nowadays, English is a globally spoken language.
Could this be related to globalization?
Well, as we know, globalization is a multifaceted phenomenon that refers to the connectivity between countries and cultures all around the globe. According to Robert Philipson, linguistic imperialism is still alive and present in modern days, thanks to English being a lingua franca in our globalized world. Dr. Leo will expand on this term later.
What effects will it have? Is it good or negative?
Globalization has both positive and negative effects on the world's societies. To give an example of positive effects, globalization facilitates exchanges of information. However, globalization can also contribute to inequality and cultural homogenization. This can lead to language displacement in native communities.
What is language displacement?
Language displacement refers to the process in which a language loses its dominance in a territory or a community. This often occurs in regions that were colonized. To give an example in our national context, we can talk about the indigenous communities in Chile. More specifically, we can talk about the Mapuche community. Historically, the Mapuche community has been forced to abandon their lands. This has gradually promoted the increase in poverty rates. They have been in opposition to the companies that have settled in the southern part of Chile, due to the companies causing terrible environmental damage, which the Mapuches are against. The Mapuche people maintain a coexisting relationship with nature, prioritizing the respectful acknowledgement of its cycles to avoid exploitation of its resources. Nevertheless, foreign and national companies have taken over Mapuche lands to exploit the resources. This has led to a prolonged conflict that continues to this day.
Dr. Morales, that was eye-opening. It is terrible how some language can be extinguished forever, and people will not know.
Absolutely. More awareness is crucial. Dr. Lillo, please share your insights.
Thank you so much for having me with you today on the show. I'm so glad to be on this episode with our loving audience. And of course, together with my amazing research partner Omara.
It is really nice to have you here, Dr. Lillo. We would love to hear about your opinion on the matter.
Well, as Omara has been telling you, the incidence of linguistic imperialism in endangered communities is a critical issue in our current society. Not only because it's a phenomenon that has been normalized for years, but also because it's an issue that perpetuates the loss of languages and oppresses different worldviews. In fact, I'm going to talk to you about 4 main elements that will help us to understand this process. The first of this concept is modernization. Then, the vernacular language and what is the relationship with the lingua franca. And finally, what is monolingualism? First of all, we can talk about modernization. The authors Cristian Lagos and Marcos Espinosa states that this process of global transformation has the main purpose of simplifying the language from the transmission of ideas.
Can we view modernization as universally positive for linguistic communities?
That is a great question, because during the gradual process of linguistic modernization, the Mapuche community, both their language and their culture, have suffered the consequence of the standardization of their mother tongue, imposing a dominant language among other languages of less prestige. This concept helps us to analyze how indigenous languages have been marginalized and oppressed through the establishment of a dominant language as a standard, reinforcing a role of privilege over others of lesser use, within a hierarchy in the context of lingua franca. In this approach, it's important to make a distinction between what is vernacular language and what is lingua franca.
And what distinguishes vernacular language from a lingua franca?
I will be happy to explain the difference. Firstly, the vernacular language, which comes from the Latin vernaculus, refers in simple words to native. According to the book Introducing Sociolinguistics by the author Ryan Measure, a vernacular language is a native language, different from the one used by a certain speaker in area of knowledge, having their own identities. On the other hand, the non-vernacular language, that is, the lingua franca by excellence, says that lingua franca is a contact language used among people who do not share first language, and is commonly understood to mean a second or subsequent language of these speakers. Example of this was Latin for centuries, until the middle of 18th century, when it was replaced by French, and then some areas by German or English, which is the currently predominant language in global communication.
How do these concepts apply in the Chilean context?
Well, to exemplify in an easy way, our vernacular language here in Chile is Spanish, as well as Mapudungun is the vernacular language of the Mapuche communities, because it's a native and habitual language spoken by this community in their daily lives.
Fascinating. Any other key elements in this phenomenon?
Of course, sure, I have the last key feature to understand this phenomenon. It's about monolingualism. According to Ava Saidi, in the context of endangered languages, the term monolingualism typically describes communities that exclusively speak an endangered indigenous language and lack competence in the more common or dominant language. If we observe monolingualism, this phenomenon contributes to the loss of linguistic and cultural diversity. This loss manifests itself to the neglect of minorities and the dominance of dominant language, resulting in the decline of cultural identity. In addition, monolingualism can limit access to educational and economic opportunities related to the languages considered more influential.
Truly fascinating. Now, we will be delighted to hear about any existing initiative being done to conserve and protect Mapudungun, or vernacular language here in Chile. I believe the most present organization is CONADI, the abbreviation for Corporación Nacional de Desarrollo Indígena. Dr. Lillo, do you know more about this organization?
Absolutely. This corporation is fundamental for the visibility and regulation within the normative field. It plays an important role in the formulation of Mapudungun language planning. Organizations such as CONADI play an important role in this matter. They promote linguistic diversity, support revitalization projects, increase bilingual education, and involve indigenous communities in decision making. Therefore, it is important to give visibility to these regulatory bodies in order to maintain and establish plan in any approach of need.
And that wraps another amazing episode of Linguistics for Dummies by Dummies. We have traveled through the intricate world of imperialist linguistics and explored the resilience of the Mapuche community and their vernacular language, and delved into the complexities of a language displacement.
It's been an eye-opening discussion showcasing the challenges faced by endangered indigenous languages and the ongoing efforts to preserve linguistic diversity.
A big thank you to our esteemed guests today, Dr. Omara Morales and Dr. Alejandra Lillo, for sharing their expertise. Your insights have added a depth of understanding to this crucial topic.
Thank you very much for having us today.
We hope this knowledge has been useful to all those listening to the show. We say goodbye here. Until the next time.
Bye bye.
And to our dear listeners, thank you for joining us on this linguistic exploration. We encourage you to continue the conversation, delve into the initiatives supporting endangered languages, and consider the impact of linguistic imperialism in our interconnected world.
Before we sign off, I remember to check out organizations like CONADI, Centro de Estudios y Documentación Mapuche Ñamku, and ENAMA, working tirelessly to safeguard linguistic diversity.
Stay curious, keep learning, and remember that language is not just a tool, it's a vessel for culture, identity, and understanding.
Absolutely. Until the next time. This is Benjamin Bustamante.
And Victoria Budini, signing off from Linguistics for Dummies by Dummies. Take care, and may your linguistic adventures continue.